Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Tibet Center. So we shall begin with for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West, which you'll find down below. Is that right, below?
Scroll down to the FAQ section.
Scroll down to the FAQ section, tells me Tony. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dhamma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have wished. Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Point Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, where there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisattva. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that Samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have said, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering of the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now to generate bodhicitta, with a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So, we have been discussing Beyond Religion by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Ethics for a Whole World. And I'll start on page 28, Fundamental Equality. So, in our quest for happiness and the avoidance of suffering, we are all fundamentally the same and therefore equal. This is an important point, for if we can integrate an appreciation of this fundamental human quality into our everyday outlook, I'm very confident that it will be of immense benefit not only to society at large, but also to us as individuals. So, the point is that we must come to recognize that we are all fundamentally the same. As I stressed last night, this is really the essence of the practice for developing equanimity in generating bodhicitta, recognizing that just as I wish for happiness and wish not to suffer, each and every other person, each and every other being wishes for happiness and wishes not to suffer. In this sense, we are all the same. And if we take the time to sit and meditate on this, if we actually engage in the analytical meditation of developing equanimity by this means, we can actually come to change our attitude towards all others. We can actually come to recognize that the person causing us harm is acting only out of a wish to avoid his or her suffering and to find happiness. That the mosquito coming to bite me is only acting out of a wish to satisfy itself and to avoid its discomfort, its hunger, whatever. This recognition of the fact that I'm the same as the mosquito, all I seek is my own happiness, my wish to avoid suffering. Recognizing this really changes our relationship to all others. And it's not something that we can simply come to recognize by reading this, by giving a momentary thought. It's something that we have to really cultivate. We have to really think about when we're still, when we're calm, so that when we go out into the world, our instinct will be to recognize that the people who are helpful to us, the people who we have really no relationship with, the people who cause us difficulty, are all the same in wishing for happiness and wishing to avoid suffering, all the same as I am merely motivated by the wish for happiness and the wish not to suffer. So this is really important, this particular subheading, fundamental equality, on page 26. For myself, whenever I meet people, whether they are presidents or beggars, whether dark or fair, short or tall, rich or poor, from this nation or that, of this faith or that, I try to relate to them simply as human beings who, like me, seek happiness and wish to avoid suffering. Adopting this perspective, I find, generates a natural feeling of closeness, even with those who until that moment were complete strangers to me. Despite all our individual characteristics, no matter what education we may have or what social rank we may have inherited, and irrespective of what we may have achieved in our lives, we all seek to find happiness and to avoid suffering during this short life of ours. So that should be the subject of our daily meditation. For this reason, I often make the point that the factors which divide us are actually much more superficial than those that we share. Despite all the characteristics that differentiate us, race, language, religion, gender, wealth, and many others, we are all equal in terms of our basic humanity. And this equality is corroborated by science. The sequencing of the human genome, for example, has shown that racial differences constitute only a tiny fraction of our genetic makeup, the vast majority of which is shared by all of us. In fact, at the genome level, the differences between individuals appear more pronounced than those between different races. In light of these considerations, the time has come, I believe, for each of us to start thinking and acting on the basis of an identity rooted in the phrase, we human beings. The quest for happiness. A human being survives only with hope, and hope, by definition, implies the thought of something better. As I see it, our very survival depends on some idea of future happiness. But if we accept that human beings are fundamentally oriented towards the pursuit of happiness and the avoidance of suffering, it remains to be explored what it means, what is meant by happiness, and where it might come from. Happiness is a rather general term, so there is potential for misunderstanding. For example, it should be made clear that in this book's secular context, we are not talking about religious conceptions of ultimate happiness, but rather the simple joy or happiness we all understand in an ordinary or everyday sense. As I noted earlier, for beings of our complexity, achieving happiness is not straightforward. Unlike a dog or a cat, happiness, for example, unlike dog or cat happiness, for example, human happiness requires more than the simple satisfaction of sensory appetite. So, what are the sources of human happiness? Three factors immediately suggest themselves, which I think most people will agree contribute significantly to human well being, namely wealth or prosperity, health, and friendship or companionship. So, as I said the other day, please feel free to comment and participate in this conversation. If you have comments, if you have questions, if you please, you can write on the YouTube, what is it called, chat. And the crowds that are seated here, or
I'm trying to keep order.
feel free to.
I agree with the happiness. I think we all seek happiness every day. This is what keeps us motivated.
So but the point is not that we all seek happiness. It's that we work on ourselves to recognize that no matter whether someone is a friend or an enemy, what is motivating that person is his or her pursuit of happiness. So, wealth, health, and friendship. Let us start with wealth. Sorry?
He said, let's start with wealth.
Let's start with wealth. Does our material situation affect our happiness? Well, certainly it does. It would be foolish to deny the importance of material factors to our well-being. After all, even a hermit living alone in a mountain cave needs food and clothing. Without a certain level of material comfort, people cannot live with the dignity we all deserve as human beings. Of course, money is an important factor in our quest to avoid suffering and achieve happiness. But how much money is enough? In Tibetan, we sometimes call money by the nickname Kunga Tunrup. To Tibetan ears, this sounds like an ordinary personal name, but it means something like that which makes us all happy and can fulfill our wishes. Since money gives us choices and freedom, it is natural that people find it very alluring and can't seem to get enough of it. Occasionally, I tease my Tibetan audiences about their devotion to Kunga Tunrup. You see, as part of our traditional religious practice, we Tibetans generally recite a mantra associated with the Buddha of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. We do this frequently throughout the day and often under our breath, even when we are busy with other things. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. We say Om Mani Padme Hum. But when we recite it quickly, it gets a bit mumbled. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme, Om Mani Mani Mani, at which point it starts to sound as if we're speaking English and saying money, money, money. But again, and joking aside, of course, wealth and prosperity brings benefit. As humans, we need decent shelter, a healthy environment, nutritious food, and clean water. These are our fundamental needs, and as such, are prerequisites of human happiness. However, while the further benefits of wealth, a new house, a new car, a new telephone, perhaps, may provide some temporary increase in our level of comfort or daily convenience, there is no guarantee that they will bring any lasting satisfaction or contribute to an overall sense of well-being. In fact, acquiring Ever more possessions often leads to greater anxiety, stress, and worry. And these factors can in turn feed anger and even resentment. Interestingly, evidence compiled by psychologists and social scientists in recent years suggest quite clearly that material acquisitions have only temporary effects on what they call mental flourishing. Such studies suggest that after the initial excitement of a new purchase has worn off, our level of happiness quickly returns to its previous level. In spoken Tibetan, we have an expression which captures this phenomenon quite well, and I do not know of an exact equivalent in other languages. When a person is particularly drawn to the thrill of new acquisitions, we call that person an atsar sabo, very atsar, where the sar of atsar means new. The implication is that such a person is not just greedy, but excitable and fickle, always running after the latest trend or the newest gadget. I think modern consumerist culture tends to encourage this kind of fickleness. Excuse me.
That's definitely a type. You know, and the latest thing, like, and there are mailing lists and targeted lists for people like that.
Atat Sabo, I think actually, not only is it a type, but it's something that applies to more and more of the population of the world. It's as if people like, well, Amazon sort of tickles the Atar Sabo.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's
and-
targeted. It's people like this.
Yes.
Shopping malls in America, no matter what state you go to, every state has exactly the same shopping mall with the same shops.
Yes, and as I shared last night, the Amazon delivery people even come to the monastery. They were not allowed during COVID, but now they're all over.
And the trucks are all over South India. Where do you live?
Trucks, no, they come on
Oh,
motorcycles.
motorcycle.
And on the back of the motorcycle, there'll be a
Those-
big
like
black
those
bag,
rickshaws,
and they will come
Wow.
and deliver. And Dharamsala, all the little nooks and crannies, all the little
Little
streets
tiny
have
little-
these
yeah.
people delivering.
That's insane. That's really crazy. From this perspective, an old person's perspective.
So Atal Sabo is, I mean, from one point of view, we can blame modern technology for its ability to suss out just what it is that we are desiring. I mean, if we look up, there's a particular kind of Indian flip-flop that I'm fond of. When I first went to live in India, they cost, I think, about 10 rupees. And 10 rupees were the equivalent of about a little over $1. And then over the years, they went up to 100 rupees, and they're still a little over $1. And now they're at about 120 or something rupees, a little over $1.
The dollar has kept up strength.
Dollar keeps going up, and the rupee keeps going up or down and equivalently. And so I looked up my chappals, and I started getting invaded by ads for chappals in on my computer.
Even if you have a conversation about something that you like, the next day, it's like they have a sort of listening device, a microphone, and then you'll get ads for that as well. People have complained about that. I'm not the only one.
I think you're the only one.
No.
From the assistant, voice activated
Yeah,
assistant,
yeah, sure.
they
They
listen
pick
in.
up certain.
Yeah, no, they listen in.
Yeah, computer.
So, but what I wanted to say was that yes, technology does this. Yes, these new techniques bombard us with what we have searched for. However, I think that we should also recognize this technological evolution as a manifestation of our own karma, that we, as a result of our desires, are being tickled. And technology is just providing the means by which we're being tickled. And the availability of stuff, which has really changed in my lifetime, from when there simply wasn't. I mean, I'm not suggesting that there was nothing there, but things were not as available
And instantly available.
and instantly available.
Can I say something?
No.
I'm remodeling my bathroom and I had a choice of buying a toilet and there must have been like 50,000 toilets. I couldn't make up my mind which
March
one.
of the toilets.
So overwhelming.
An assembly tree of toilets.
It's like the one with the hot seat, the one that flushes
Absolutely.
automatically, the one that's,
espresso
yeah,
machine.
pretty much. The one that lights up, I was like,
It lights up. One lights up. That's there.
Yes, so I really think that if we, again, if we sit and think about this, if we sit and think about how this relates to the mechanics of karma, that this availability, this bombardment, that these sort of technological tickles are the result of our own
In response to our impulses.
and I mean, we see, on one level we see this as being convenient, and yet on another it's as if it's more and more convenient to have access to salty water, which only makes us want to drink more, and yes, the ocean is full of it, but
Big point.
it's very stressful actually. It's stressful.
And you look back at your
Sensory
purchases,
overload.
they weren't so exciting, but after a while, as Holiness says, imagine something when you see it in the shop, then after you bought it, there's a different relationship. And of course, it's sour, so then what do? You buy more things, unless you have your head on your shoulders and start to consider it. It's very seductive.
And also the sensory overload. It's just, you spend so much energy having to sift through all this stuff and to say no to this and yes to that, and it's just a bombardment of information.
And our phones are so practical because they bring all of this information to wherever we happen to be in the world, or within our lives.
There's certain Buddhist talks now that are interrupted by commercials on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I've
crazy.
seen that. Yeah. We don't get bombarded with the Dharma though. No one's coming at us
No.
with Dharma like, you should go to this teaching or go to that one. It hasn't happened yet.
And that's something we have to find within ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we do it ourselves. We've been, but it's true.
But really, to sit and this conversation may seem sort of banal and obvious and all that, but to think about it, just these thoughts strengthen the muscle that we need to use to refrain from indulging in these little materialistic adventures.
Counter craving.
Yeah.
Counter our craving, which comes up so easily.
I think if you can see the emptiness behind everything, that would help.
Yeah, well,
You
I would love to.
already know.
No, I don't. Hardly.
So I think that seeing the emptiness, as you just said, that's. I think that here we have to counter the craving, and we have to at this, we have to actually recognize that we are simply addicted. That it is simply a craving. That we don't need. We are just being led by the nose. We are being led by these technological tools, and that the peace that we derive from simply watching our breath, or simply reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, or simply refraining from those indulgences, that peace brings far greater happiness than the other. The other is simply, pursuing a thrill, while that calm that comes is deep and totally changes our relationship to life.
We stabilize our mind to study empty, we're still impulsive craving.
Right.
So, I mean, they say that if we desire something, and if we can really work at seeing how it doesn't exist inherently, that it is dependent on its parts, it is dependent on its causes, and ultimately it is dependent on our naming or imputing. All of that definitely changes the dynamic of our relationship to it. But I think that I know at my level of craving, that helps. But I also have to recognize that the object that I really wish for doesn't lead to happiness, doesn't, that once I have it, I'm going to want something more. I will become dissatisfied with it. I can look I can look at my own experience and see how I've done that many, many, many times. Yeah. I mean, tools are important. let us.
There's a good side of all these things, and that's the seductive part of it. I don't know.
But we talk ourselves into things also.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're always having a conversation with ourselves. Well, if I buy this, then that, whatever. I mean, I can't think of a particular example, but.
So we have to use the same conversation with ourselves to counter. Yes, if I buy this, all my problems will be solved for a moment.
Yeah.
And then we'll start new problems.
And does it create more problems? Of course, first of all, it creates the impulse to want more.
Right.
That's the most important.
Yeah.
It creates the impulse to want more.
The salt water effect.
Or honey on a razor's edge.
So this conversation is important, because this is the conversation that we.
Maybe long stockings.
Good evening. If you have a comment. Can the pursuit of happiness lead to craving, and hence is it counterproductive when it comes to gaining equanimity? Well, so the question is, can the pursuit of happiness itself be counterproductive? Is the pursuit of happiness not something that counters equanimity? And I think that one has to there. The question itself brings out that we have to be very careful about what it is that we mean by happiness. The pursuit of happiness is not the pursuit of some kind of material happiness. The pursuit of happiness is the pursuit of a certain peace, the contentment, all of which actually provide equanimity. If the happiness that we pursue counters equanimity, then that happiness is not really valid in this context in terms of the kind of happiness that we're talking about here. So, much more important than money, possessions, or status, therefore, is our inner or mental state of being. Members of a poor family will be happy if there is affection, kindness, and trust between them. Their rich neighbors may live in luxury, but if suspicion or resentment besets their minds, they will have no genuine happiness. This is a matter of common sense. So ultimately, the mental level is key. Recent social science research has shown not only that the mental benefits of wealth are temporary, but also that the general level of contentment in a society is higher when wealth is more evenly distributed among the population than when there are large disparities between rich and poor. That's interesting that this has been seen. This again suggests that well-being cannot be measured in objective material terms, but is dependent on a range of contextual factors which affect one's mental attitude toward or
relationship to that wealth. It's a
mental
weird
attitude
sentence.
toward or relationship
Yeah.
to that wealth.
Yeah. He thinks, what does he think?
And what about health?
Yeah.
Is health a source of well-being? Once again, it certainly is. As most of us have experienced for ourselves, when we're in constant pain or discomfort, maintaining a positive attitude can be very difficult. So, looking after our physical health is crucial. We must eat well, sleep well, take some exercise. If we fall ill, we should consult a suitably qualified doctor and follow the treatment prescribed. I like suitably qualified. This much is obvious. If, however, we consider health to be an entirely physical matter and concern ourselves only with the state of our body while neglecting mental and emotional factors, then we're mistaken, for there is no necessary or direct link between enjoying good physical health and being happy. After all, isn't it possible for someone with a healthy, strong body to be unhappy? In fact, it's quite common. And isn't it equally possible for someone in poor, even very poor health, nonetheless to be happy? I'm sure it is. Does the physical frailty of, say, a very old person necessarily entail unhappiness? Certainly not. So, although physical health certainly contributes to human happiness, it is not its ultimate source. Instead, the real source of happiness once again involves our state of mind, outlook, and motivation, and our level of warm heartedness towards others. So now let us consider friendship. Certainly, having a close circle of friends, people with whom we can pass time and share experiences, is very important. As we are social animals, relationships with others are crucial to our well being. But we must consider carefully what distinguishes genuine friendship from superficial relationships, which bring only superficial benefits. There is no doubt that in human society, money, social standing, and appearance bring with them a great deal of attention. Yet, what is the real object of this attention? Is it possible that these people are not truly our friends, but rather friends for our friends of our money, our status, or good looks? And if so, what will happen if our fortunes decline? What if we lose our good looks or our money? Will these friends still be there when we need them, or will they just fade away? The danger is that such friends will quickly disappear. Well, I think that this is quite obvious and this is quite evident to all of us.
In Hollywood and politics.
Washington.
Holiness used to say, those people are friends of money, not your friends.
It is clearly the case that genuine friendship can only be based on trust and affection, which can only arise when there is a mutual sense of concern and respect. So feelings of trust and loving kindness, which counteract feelings of isolation or loneliness, do not come from the mere external presence of others or from the outer appearance of friendship, but from one's own attitude of concern and respect toward those others. Their ultimate source is within us. During a visit to Spain many years ago, I met a Christian monk who had spent 5 years living as a hermit behind his monastery. I asked him what he had been doing all that time. He replied he had been meditating on love. When he said this in English, even more broken than mine, I saw such a depth of feeling in his eyes that there was no need for him to say more. Here we have an example of someone who lived all alone but felt no loneliness. It is warm-heartedness or compassion, above all, which connects us to others. People who appear to have many friends and admirers may nevertheless feel quite isolated. I would remind such people that the only antidote to such loneliness is their own inner attitude of affection, concern, and warm-heartedness towards their fellow human beings. So again, if we look at this from the point of view of our own sort of inner meditation or practice, as the Christian meditator who meditated for 5 years on love demonstrates, friendship, love, warmth towards others is not necessarily something that needs to be experienced among many people. It's something that we can work at feeling within ourselves.
Would you say that's similar to bodhicitta?
So I think it's important to be clear about what bodhicitta is. Bodhicitta will contain those elements. Bodhicitta will come about as a result of our feeling of concern for others. But specifically, bodhicitta is the determination to become a Buddha in order to most effectively help others.
But that determination is fed by this intense love.
Fed by, absolutely. But it is not bodhicitta. It is those become the ingredients that bring about our bodhicitta. Compassion is not bodhicitta. Compassion is a cause of bodhicitta. Love, the wish that others find happiness, is a cause that brings about bodhicitta. The two levels of satisfaction. These considerations reveal that when we speak about happiness, we are often mixing up two quite different and largely independent states, two levels of satisfaction. On the one hand, there are those pleasurable feelings which come with sensory experiences. Wealth, health, and friendship all contribute greatly to such feelings. On the other hand, there is a deeper level of satisfaction, deriving not from the external stimuli, but from our own mental state. It is this second level of satisfaction, coming from within us, which I refer to when I talk about genuine human happiness. The first kind of satisfaction, since it is dependent on sensory stimulation, is by its nature fragile and transient. Such pleasures last only so long as the sensory stimulation, and when this is over, they make no lasting contribution to our overall sense of well-being. For example, many people spend a great deal of time watching sporting events, but after the event, what is left? What long-term benefit has been gained? So this is, His Holiness clearly presents that. I do think it's important to recognize the need we have in our practice to relax. And I don't watch sports, but I do think that there can be a benefit in loosening the strictness with which we are engaging in our spiritual practice, and
But I guess he's saying, don't, that's not your only goal. Watch, then another event, then another event. It's crazy. There's always a big game.
all pleasures based on sensory stimulation derive at some level from the satisfaction of a craving. And if we become obsessed with satisfying that craving, this will eventually turn into a kind of suffering. Even the pleasure we get from eating turns to suffering if we overindulge. So I think this paragraph, I'm going to reread it, not because we haven't all understood it, but because I think it should be the basis for an analytical meditation. It should be the basis for our really thinking about this when we are not sort of sucked into craving, and also thinking about this if we develop familiarity with this concept, then when we find ourselves in front of or in that situation of being sucked into, we can remember it.
We have more strength.
So all pleasures based on sensory stimulation derive at some level from the satisfaction of a craving. So sensory stimulation derives from satisfying a craving. And if we become obsessed with satisfying that craving, this will eventually turn into a kind of suffering. Even the pleasure we get from eating turns to suffering if we overindulge. Well, that way, I think we all have experienced.
I have a question. This is a really stupid question, but why? Why do we have this intense sensory, and why do we want all these things? Why do we have this intense craving? Are we just because we're in samsara, or how do we get here?
So when you say, is it because we are in samsara? Let's define what being in samsara is. Being in samsara is grasping at a sense of self, and which doesn't actually exist. And and out of that grasping at a sense of self come the afflictions, and the afflictions are only grow as we indulge them.
But why the senses? Like, why do we, for example, the hunger? Why do we indulge in like wanting more and more food? Like, why is it the senses that we're trying to satisfy? Because through the senses is we think through the senses we're going to satisfy ourselves. Is
Yes,
it?
yes, 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 yes.
Mhm.
You're saying the senses has an essential thing, we have to eat and we're hungry.
Right, or like you want to see something beautiful, you want to hear
Yeah.
some nice music, or yeah, I see.
I guess I'm gonna have to form it out. There's a lot there, but the whole package comes along with the sense of self. Hey, yeah. And
We have a lot of
it's hard
baggage.
to find
We
it,
have a lot of baggage.
but we're here, we're in the right place to unpack.
Hopefully,
I
yes.
don't know, tables and stuff.
I do not want to suggest that such pleasures are completely worthless, but simply to point out that the satisfactions they bring are transient and involve self-perpetuating cycles of craving.
He answered your question.
Thank you.
In today's materialistic world, in which inner values are often neglected, it is very easy to fall into the habit of constantly seeking sensory stimulation. So again, in today's materialistic world in which inner values are often neglected, it is very easy to fall into the habit of constantly seeking sensory stimulation.
Amen.
Often I notice that if people are not listening to music, watching television, talking on the telephone, and so on, they feel bored or restless and don't know what to do. This suggests that their sense of well-being is heavily dependent on the sensory level of satisfaction. Well, that's something to really think about. And it's not something to judge others about. This is something for us. We have to notice that if I'm not listening to music, well, I don't listen to music, but if I am not watching television, I don't watch television, talking on the phone, and so on, I feel bored or restless and don't know what to do. This suggests that my sense of well-being is heavily dependent on the sensory level of satisfaction. It's really something to apply to ourselves.
So practical.
And it's not something to read once, and it's really something to, if you want to take parts of this book and make a list of the subjects to think about, or just highlight them in your book and go over. These can be like a little series of analytical meditations that we can.
You get a quick hit and also open the book. You realize how much you forget. You underline it, so yeah, this is great. Then you have to go back. Better mind go ahead.
Habituation, yeah.
What about the other inner level of satisfaction? Where does it come from, and how can it be achieved? Well, first of all, genuine happiness requires peace of mind. Here, I think this is the Pippi, the person who asked the question. This is
genuine happiness.
first of all, genuine happiness requires peace of mind or a degree of mental composure. When this is present, hardship counts for little. With strength and the mental stability derived from inner peace, we can endure all kinds of adversity. Now that's, at the end of this meditation on these subjects, if we come to the conclusion that with the strength and mental stability, derived from inner peace, we can endure all kinds of adversity. That really gives us the strength, gives us the determination to really cultivate mental stability, inner peace. The role of our minds in determining our happiness can be easily illustrated. Imagine two people diagnosed with the same terminal illness, say an advanced form of untreatable cancer. One of them responds to this news with anger and self-pity, obsessively focusing on the unfairness of the situation, while the other responds with calm acceptance. In both cases, the material condition in terms of physical health and suffering is the same, but the first person incurs additional psychological and emotional pain, while the person with a calm mind is better equipped to carry on with life and continue to experience the things that bring joy. Family, perhaps, or dedication to certain causes, or reading. The only difference between the two is in their state of mind. With inner resilience, it is possible, even in extremely aggravating circumstances, to maintain a degree of happiness. And yet, without this inner strength, no amount of sensual gratification can ever make us happy. So, with inner resilience, it is possible, even in extremely aggravating circumstances, to maintain a degree of happiness. And yet, without this inner strength, no amount of sensual gratification can ever make us happy. That's one to consider. But if peace of mind is our first defense against hardship and suffering, there are also other crucial factors which greatly contribute to our level of genuine happiness and joy. Recent scientific research suggests that chief among these are a sense of purpose which transcends narrow self-interest, and a feeling of being connected with others or belonging to a community. The root of both of these, I believe, is compassion or warm-heartedness, and it is to this that I now turn. So here we will stop.
Very good. What a masterpiece. Darren, any names? Mandy Jacobson.
Today is the 8th. Okay.
Next question.
So, we've been asked to pray for Mandy Jacobson, the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha, Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is possessed of the He is ayatanas of control. He's completely cut the knots. He's completely liberated from extreme torment. He's liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight from the wise. The Dharma, which by the Bhagavat is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma protector. I prostrate to the Sangha of the community. I prostrate respectfully to all of these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are conceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. So let us read the prayer for a swift return. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop. Sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes. Guru Losang Tuang Dorje. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torture doctrine, accomplishing for long ago the vast ways of aspirational praise. Lord of speech of the Losang teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of the explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you to cyclic existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Nirmanakaya, brought forth by Bodhisattva, drawn by seven steeds. Reach the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness. Please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return the glory of the magnificent truth of the three precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Thank you.
Very good. Good class. Very good.